All right, welcome to our SEC preview of the, of course, SEC basketball tournament. It takes place up in Nashville, starts on Wednesday this year with the addition of the new teams. Kevin Brockway and I will both be there. I'm going to go a little bit earlier and cover the entire tournament. Kevin will be up there, of course, covering the Gators. And, of course, Kevin, the Gators don't play till Friday, which brings us to our first question. What do you think of their chances to win this tournament?
Well, I think that the extra practice time could do them some good, certainly in late game situations. We saw that against Kentucky, and that's really been the issue with this team all season long. I mean, it's an exceptional defensive team, the best in the SEC, no doubt, but it's a team that in close late game situations, for whatever reason, it just seems to tense up. They don't make shots, they don't execute well, they have careless turnovers. They're a team that can't afford to beat themselves, I think. You know, certainly in that Kentucky game, you look back at it, 57-51, Rosario throws an ill-advised pass, breakaway layup, and then Rupp Arena gets going. So just play a little more disciplined and let their defense carry them, and I think they can win this tournament.
Well, and they had the alley-oop, and Scotty decided to throw it left-handed, underhanded, and you know, they just didn't play well down the stretch. And the funny thing is, and I was writing about this just now before we came in here, Kevin, before that, to that point at 57-50, I'm like, you know what? I'm really proud of these guys to go up there in that environment, playing a desperate, hungry team, and they're able to be in this position where you thought they were going to win the game. Then from that point on, I don't know if I've ever been more disappointed in watching a Florida team play.
It was kind of a game of runs, really, because they get off to 11-2 start, and they start well in the second half. I mean, Billy called timeouts within 50 or a minute, within those first two halves. That it looks like they kind of get things together or playing at a high level, and then obviously, down the stretch. I mean, this is not a very good half-court offensive team right now. I mean, they really need to generate points off their turnovers, I think, and try to figure some things out going forward to get some more guys in sync.
Well, and here's the thing. What are their chances? I think they're still the best team in the conference. I don't think anybody could argue that. But they were incredible against the good to mediocre to bad teams. The trouble is for the SEC right now is there's only one really good team, and that's Florida. Missouri you can make an argument about, but I got news for you. You know, Kentucky and all these teams that are on the bubble, they're not that good. So I think Florida's got a real legitimate chance. They're not going to have to deal with home crowd except for if they ended up playing Kentucky, but that would be down the road. So we'll see how the Gators do. Our number 2 question. There's so many teams on the bubble. How many will be in the NCAA tournament when the dust clears? And I got news for Kentucky fans. If they think they're in, they're not in. They've got a chance to be in, but they go 0-1 in that conference tournament. And they're not going to go to the NCAA tournament. So you got Kentucky, you have Tennessee, you have Alabama, you have Ole Miss, all of them on the bubble right now. How many do you think are going to make it?
I think it's going to be 3, and I think right now Florida and I think Missouri is in just based on their non-conference schedule, beating Illinois and beating VCU. I think Kentucky needs to win at least 1, but I think they'll probably get that win against Arkansas. And beyond that, maybe an outside shot for Tennessee. What will be really intriguing will be if Tennessee gets by that first-round game as the 5 seed, which they probably should if they face a 12. Then you're talking about Tennessee, Alabama in a quarterfinal game. Yeah. That could be an elimination game right there. Ole Miss, it's amazing they're the 3 seed in the SEC tournament. I don't know. They just haven't played a strong enough non-conference schedule. I think they're going to have to win at least 2 games to get in.
Yeah, the interesting thing is Kentucky, as a 2 seed in the SEC tournament, might not go to the national tournament, whereas Missouri, which is, a 6, is a lock to go in. It's just the way it all worked out. You know, I think Ole Miss obviously has to beat Missouri, and that would be a good win for them. And then come back if they get Kentucky in the next game. You know, now they're in the conversation. To me, Ole Miss isn't even in the conversation right now because their non-conference is so bad. And we all know the selection committee tends to go, hey, who'd you play? Where'd you play them? They didn't play anybody. And I certainly think that Tennessee-Alabama game, as you said, could end up being an elimination. And let's go to number 3, and that is the potential matchup I want to see. I'm looking for, you're there at the SEC tournament, Kevin. We've been to a bunch of them. And you're waiting for the basketball finally starts, and that first night it's just awful basketball. And you're like, well, I was looking forward to this. But then as you move on, it gets better and better. The Tennessee-Alabama matchup is the game that I'm really looking forward to seeing if that does take place because of everything that's on the line. They don't like each other anyway. Their fan bases don't like each other. And you probably will have a pretty good Tennessee crowd there with it being in Nashville.
Yeah, and I think it'll be that'll be an interesting kind of a defensive. It might not be the prettiest game to watch per se, but it's going to be a game where certainly there's going to be a lot of desperation. I think what could also be an interesting game would be if they make it to the semifinals or in the same bracket would be Kentucky, Missouri. I think that would be a really good semifinal matchup. Two teams that are really kind of assertive offensively and would be certainly an entertaining game to watch.
It's just great that we have a bracket finally, and certainly a Florida-Tennessee game would be another one if they met in the semifinals with what Tennessee was able to do. So there's a potential for some really good matchups here. There are going to be some bad ones early on, but do you have a dark horse candidate that you think can win this thing? I mean, last year I don't think any of us had Vanderbilt winning it. Vanderbilt had notoriously under Kevin Stallings been awful in the SEC tournament, and they go and not only win it but beat the national champions to win it. Is there a team this year you like as a dark horse? I
don't know if you would call them a dark horse per se because I think they're pretty talented, but I think Missouri, as a 6th seed, could win 4 games in 4 days. I just think that they're an explosive team, a talented team, and they're a team that, certainly offense, they haven't really played that well outside of Columbia, but they've had some tough luck. They've lost a lot of close games, and I think they're a team that talent-wise, with Lawrence Bowers back, could be a team that could make a run and win 4 games in 4 days and win it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. That's a good one. I tell you a team that I'm going to go way out on the edge here, and that's LSU. I like LSU's team. I've liked them all year. I know they're a 9 seed, but they have good guard play. They're getting better with O'Brien. When he comes to play, they're pretty good. And they'd have to beat Georgia, and Georgia really is a one-man team, as you know. And I agreed with your selection of
Caldwell
Pope for Player of the Year. I mean, it's a hard year to pick a guy, but then we don't know what Florida's mindset's going to be going into that. The LSU certainly could knock them off, and then you could end up playing Alabama. They can beat Alabama.
When O'Brien played in the first meeting, he had a really bad ankle, so he wasn't at 100%. If O'Brien's at 100%, he can cause some problems inside, and certainly that'll be a game where Patrick Young will have to step up.
And I'm not picking LSU to beat Florida. I'm just saying if I had to pick a dark horse team, that's where I'm going to go. Number 5, our question, should all 14 teams be in the tournament? And this is something I'm going to address Wednesday for Thursday's paper because this is the first year we've had this, Kevin. We've seen this in the Big East with the double byes. I'm not a huge fan of it. Maybe it's because the bottom is so bad this year that, but it seems to me that 14 is an awful lot of teams to have for a basketball tournament.
You would think that, and certainly that Auburn-Mississippi State game on Saturday would lend credence to that, like the cellar dweller game. But I'm going to disagree from the standpoint of, everyone says that no team has a chance, to win the NCAA, to get into the NCAA tournament. I think if you have all 14 teams in the tournament, you can at least say that you have a chance still, however slim, to get that automatic bid. And to do that from Wednesday, you'd have to win 5 games in 5 days, and that'd be incredible. But we saw a Georgia team a couple of years ago in 2008 make a crazy run, so anything can happen.
Yeah, but that Georgia team was better than any of these teams. That's A. B, tornado's not hitting Nashville, so I don't think that's going to happen. But and I'll talk about that more in my column, but I've got the answer for how to handle this. You can read it in Thursday's Gainesville Sun. Number 6, should Nashville be the permanent home of the tournament? It almost is right now. I mean, they're backing off Atlanta. They only go there every 4 or 5 years now. There are 2 openings. I think it's 17 and 18, where they're going to either go to Missouri or and again it'd probably be St. Louis or Texas for one of those cities. But it seems like, look, for baseball you want to go to Omaha. For SEC football you want to go to Atlanta. Why not say, here we're going to Nashville and just leave it there? It's an 18,000 seat arena, which I think is more conducive. Atlanta's too big. What do you think?
I think that certainly the setup is great too in terms of it being downtown right there. Atlanta, you're dealing with shuttles back and forth. I still like having it move around a little bit, have a different footprint. And certainly for us in Gainesville, it's a little more convenient with the 5-hour drive as opposed to taking a flight. But maybe move it around. I didn't mind New Orleans. I thought New Orleans wasn't too bad of a site either. But I think Nashville should have it more often than not. I agree with you.
Well, and it's like you said. It's not only downtown, but it's not there's no bad area there. Like in Atlanta, you're a little nervous if you're having to make that walk back to the hotel late at night, especially after a tornado's hit and there's glass and metal everywhere. But I like Nashville to be a permanent host. I think it's a great town, and I think that the arena setup is good. I do know that, like you said, the league wants to move it around because they want to help promote basketball. But to me, it isn't working. The
Yeah.
SEC in basketball is still way down there. It's like a 9th best RPI conference. So that plan isn't working. So
Well,
maybe,
you remember in 2009 when they had it in Tampa, and it was a
Oh,
really
God.
bad Florida team, and they had no attendance. You know?
No, it was pathetic. Again, don't ever go back there. And finally, you need to pick one big upset for the tournament. Who would you pick?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know if you would call it an upset, but maybe Vandy over Arkansas, 10-7.
Yeah.
That could be a potential upset down the road, or maybe a let's see, a 6. No, I like Missouri too much. I wouldn't say that.
All right, so here's mine. Arkansas over Kentucky. That's the upset I'm picking because Kentucky thinks they got it in. They aren't in. If Arkansas knocks them out, I think they knock them out. And Arkansas, with 2 offensive guys. The only thing is, Arkansas, the only thing that makes me hesitant to make that pick is they're so bad away from home.
Yeah.
Maybe this place they'll like it. And think about the emotions, because Arkansas, Kentucky, with the great history of basketball they have, that would be some kind of game. I'm picking Arkansas to beat Kentucky. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. All right, that's going to do it for our SEC basketball preview. Hopefully you'll enjoy all of our stuff coming from the tournament. We got a lot of stuff planned for you, so make sure you're clicking on Gatorsports.com every morning. Until the next time we talk to you, which will be from Nashville, Pat Dooley and, of course, Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun saying so long from the Sunshine State.